All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another We've Read the Documents live stream. I'm your host, John Brisson. Thank you for being a subscriber. If you want to support my work, buy me a coffee/We've Read. Thank you for all the donate. God bless you. Donations are greatly appreciated and needed if possible. If you want to subscribe, search We've Read the Documents on Substack, Patreon, Odyssey, and Rumble. Substack gives you the greatest access to my content. You get my written work, as well as my PowerPoint presentation on the numerous connections of Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, as well as my Spotify link, so you can listen to my video streams, live streams on audio form. And my fellow brother in Christ and I, Jeremy Stone, have a Christian podcast, By the Fruits, so you can listen to on Spotify or wherever you listen to your streams. So here you have Council for National Policy member Mark Meckler. Now, Mark Meckler, he was a founding member of the Tea Party Patriots, which may have been a major part of the Tea Party, and him and Jenny Beth Martin, who was also a Council for National Policy member, together they either co-opted the Tea Party, or I believe the Tea Party was initially a Council for National Policy, astroturfed from the very beginning. So here he says, if you're a Christian, we should be focused on the light, not the darkness. Look at the light coming from the White House and houses of worship. I think things are looking up and revival is here. So kind of pushing the Pentecostal idea of a coming revival. And I do believe that there will be Christians who are kind of lukewarm, who become stronger in their faith through the tribulation. But there will be a mass people, as far as Gentiles coming to the Lord. And we have scripture for that. Now, again, interesting, he says, look at the light coming from the White House, right? Well, we do know from 2 Corinthians 11:14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, okay? So definitely, as I've covered my issues with Donald John Trump and the Donald John Trump administration, and how I believe that, he claims he's protecting Christians through the faith office, through the heretic Paula White, but that's not true, right? It's coming off as good, but it's not. And of course, to counter Mark Meckler, 2 Thessalonians 2:1-3. Now, brother, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be shaken in mind or troubled either by spirit or by word or by better as from us, as through the day of Christ had come. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. So, Mark Meckler is mistaken. It seems to be pushed by many of the Council for National Policy types. Also, that reminds me about CMP. Jeff from Right on Radio did excellent broadcast discussing the CMP a few days ago. I'm going to have Jeff on this week on Wednesday to talk about the Esther plan within inside the Council for National Policy, which is going to discuss persecuting quote-unquote anti-Semitism to its fullest extent. So we're going to discuss that. So here we have remote Wyoming vacation lodge emerges as heaven for U.S. dissident right. Okay, so I've talked about the Council for National Policy's obsession with Wyoming, with Jackson Hole, the technocracy's obsession with Jackson Hole. So much I rewatched Silicon Valley, which was Mike Judge's show on Silicon Valley. And, they discussed a lot about the elites going to, technocratic elites going to Jackson Hole and having vacation homes in Jackson Hole. And I've covered that Elon Musk, may have talked from Cardano's Charles Hodgkinson. Of course, Cardano is a cryptocurrency, the founder, cabin during Trump's run for the presidency. And we know Jackson Hole is very important to the technocratic elite, very important to the Council for National Policy. We also have, various Council for National Policy ranches within Wyoming, including Council for National Policy member Eric Prince and former president of the Council for National Policy, Foster Freeze. who also had a friendship and relationship with Candace Owens, Council for National Policy member Ali Alexander, his name's Ali Akbar, and Kanye West. And Kanye West also had a Wyoming ranch as well, too, right? So, you can go back and listen to my stream on Kanye, where I believe that Kanye West was a CMP op in the modern time, being controlled by Ali Alexander, Candace Owens, and primarily Foster Freeze, right? So, let's continue. A vacation lodge known as a Wagon Box Inn in the tiny town of Story, Wyoming, has emerged as an unlikely hub of right-wing ambitions to reorient U.S. politics and culture. Events held there since it opened and other planned for the spring have brought together figures from the so-called dissident right, political figures backed by reactionary currents of Silicon Valley and proponents of the network state movement. The dissident right is a term that describes right-wing intellectual currents that go beyond and even attack mainstream conservatives for the perceived concessions of liberals on issues like race, feminism, and LGBTQ plus rights. Network state proponents envision a network of extra-national communities exist beyond the control of nation-states. The Guardian contacted the Wagon Box founder and owner Paul McNeil for comment. He didn't respond directly, but instead posted a screenshot of the request to X appended with commentary. There, McNeil said he was driven by good faith curiosity that events there had been largely focused on a suspicion of the machine, and boasted of the breadth of politics represented, citing appearances by the like of Patrick Deenan and Seneca Scott. Deenan is a Notre Dame professor, a conservative political theorist whose 2023 book Regime Change offered a preview of the Trump administration's intention to breathe fire on America's cultural institutions, whose fans include J.D. Vance, the vice president. Scott, whom McNeil described as a 90s Democrat who wants a safe community for his family and goats, is a former union organizer based in Oakland, California, whose activism, political campaigning, and social media output have targeted transgender people, homeless encampments, local media organizations, progressive politicians, and city employees. Liberalism is crumbling. Sheridan County property records indicate that Paul McNeil bought the property that includes the Wagon Box, formerly a holiday destination and RV park, in August 2022. Property records, satellite imagery, and media posted on social media platforms and on the Wagon Box website indicate a semi-rural location on the western fringes of Story. So McNeil took control of the property, has been played host to a sting of events, many of them featuring figures associated with overlapping right-wing movements. The project has drawn concerns in local media, but garnered a laudatory write-up in the Barry Weiss. That's interesting. There you go. Ardent Zionist Barry Weiss founded Free Press. Free Press investors include right-wing tech figures like Mark Andreessen and Trump administration crypto czar David Sachs. McNeil billed as a millionaire in an appearance on a real estate investment podcast in 2021 as a principal of a legion of LLCs, according to company records in Alaska, Wyoming, Montana, and North Carolina. Property records and data brokers indicate that McNeil or LLCs controlled by him have bought and sold dozens of properties, many of them trailer parks or similar sites of low-cost housing in at least 3 states. According to the founding documents on its website, Wagon Box is run as a decentralized, autonomous organization. You see a lot of that in cryptocurrency. DAO, okay? Decentralized government run by artificial intelligence is the wave of the future. So when you hear the term decentralized, and it's put forth by many elites, technocratic elites who are discussing artificial intelligence and government and decentralized platforms and decentralized networks. And you have a lot of people in the alternative media who are bought into quote-unquote decentralization. It's not decentralized, okay? You've had RFK Jr. talking about AI usage in American government and transparency in American government, and everything should be put, every transaction of the American government should be put on the Bitcoin blockchain ledger so everybody can see every transaction and give the power back to the people, we the people type aspect, right? That's how they're going to sell the coming technocratic beast system of the Antichrist. How they're going to sell it is they're going to give you options. It's going to be decentralized options, okay? And everything's going to be tokenized, right? So that's how they're going to sell it to you. And it truly is a libertarian wet dream in a lot of ways. All right, let's see here. We're not northern Idaho or even Montana. We're so far managed to attract the crazy right to our state, said Elizabeth Storer, a Democratic state representative for Jackson, who has spoken critically of Wyoming libertarian financial laws and opaquity. We're allowed just about anyone to come into Wyoming because of our low tax environment. Our limited liability corporation laws and the use of registered agents all over the state allows people to offshore funds in Wyoming with a great deal of secrecy, she added. The current version of the document explaining the Dow aligns the project with the network state movement, claiming that the grand project of liberalism is crumbling and that in its wake, people are looking for new avenues of allegiance and interdependence. The document continues, Balaji Srinivasan, among others, has identified the shift and suggested a process for uniting modern technologies with ancient human trends of association to create network states, providing a link to Srinivasan's self-published 2022 book of the same name. Srinivasan is an entrepreneur and investor formerly associated with companies including Andreessen and Horowitz and Coinbase. The company's current CEO, Brian Armstrong, is another outspoken booster of network states. Of course he is. Network states are very similar to freedom cities, very similar to 15-minute cities, very similar to corporate autonomous cities. They go by many names. The Libertarians and the Council for National Policy used to push these kind of corporate autonomous city zones. They're made infamous in literature in Neil Stephenson's book Snow Crash, where you have a reviving of the company towns and kind of neighborhoods that you work for said company, and then you're giving access to live in said neighborhood, and eventually, like in Snow Crash, you'd have to pay money to enter into such a neighborhood to keep the crime out, because crime is so bad in the future, right? So you have Starbase in Texas being a good example of this with Elon Musk currently right now. So, this is just a more maybe guise of libertarianism and kind of hippie collectivism, kind of like merging of that, So definitely not something that most people would want or should want, okay? Especially when it's coming from these people. For more than a decade, Srinivasan has advocated a radical anarcho-capitalist vision in which like-minded people can exit and place themselves beyond the legal and economic reach of nation-states in parallel network special economic zones. There you go. So, when the World Economic Forum's pushing you as 15-minute cities is bad, right? But when the Council for National Policy, the World Future Society, is pushing it as freedom cities or anarcho-capitalist special economic zones, just like we have special economic zones in China, right? With the kind of in-between state of Hong Kong, right? You have elite technocrats trying to sell you this is a good thing. It's the guise of anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism. Good God. As early as 2013, Srinivasan was advocating a reverse diaspora in which people enabled by technology would assemble in cloud cities outside the United States. These could be floating cities in international waters, as put forth by Peter Thiel, or one of the more ambitious 80,000 personal colonies on Mars desired by Elon Musk. I'm laughing because I have friends who are libertarians. I once myself had a libertarian mindset in the mid to early 2010s. Anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism is a utopian pipe dream, all right? Like, it's impossible, all right? And so the technocrats are the ones who are driving the Council for National Policy. Ron Paul is a CNP member, Freemason. They've been driving modern-day libertarianism and modern-day collectivism for years. Now, I understand that my libertarian friends will say, well, that's not true libertarianism, but all of the infamous libertarian writers, for example, let's say Ludwig von Mises, none of them were our guys, and libertarianism in its truer form just leads to libertarianism, a do what thou wilt mentality, okay? Let's be real here, all right? So, I mean, some people claim that they have the purest intentions and they're just going to do it right? We're just going to do it right this time. This time we're going to have, the right freedom city. If we have the right people running the right the collectivist freedom city, right? But most of your, collectivist, intention villages or whatever put forth by the modern new age and the hippie movements of the 60s and the World Future Society, a majority of them just don't end well. Why? Because people's hearts are corrupted. Even those with the purest intentions are, they're sinful and their hearts are wicked. So, I mean, I get it. I know libertarians that say they're different, right? They're different than these libertine technocrats. But in reality, it's the same. It's just a libertine technocrats are more open about it and they have more money. Soon after, in response to reporting leaking Silicon Valley figures to the anti-democratic neo-reactionary movement and its leading light Curtis Yarvin, Surin and Vastin reportedly emailed Yarvin with the suggestion that it might be interesting to sick the Dark Enlightenment audience on a single vulnerable hostile reporter to dox them and turn them inside out. He later cited Yarvin in the network state, stating, as Yarvin in particular has documented at length, the most important left authoritarians are not formally part of the elected state at all. They're professors, activists, bureaucrats, and journalists. He describes people in these fields as constituting the control circuitry of the United States government. Last September, he opened a residential network school for would-be builders of network nations, reportedly located in Malaysia's Forest City. His requirements included an admiration of Western values, seeing Bitcoin as successor to the United States Federal Reserve, of course, that's coming in the coming beast system, and trusting AI over human courts and judges, of course. Everything I just mentioned earlier, imagine that. That's what they stake themselves on. The network stake vision has already inspired an attempt to build a city, California forever, in rural Solano County, with investors including Andreessen and LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. Network state advocates also reported wanting to construct a similar charter city in Greenland if it's annexed by the United States of America. That is true. That would be the cryptocurrency collective group, Praxis. And Praxis also, there was memes on X that, Praxis themselves didn't put out, but adherents of Praxis. Praxis is also funded by Peter Thiel as well, too. Of course it is. That they were going to put a nation state in the cleared Gaza. I mean, come on! Donald Trump has floated the idea of creating 10 such freedom cities on federal land, including the San Francisco's Presidio. Colonel Michael Aquino's dead, so you don't have to worry about him there. The movement also overlaps with efforts to mount a right-wing takeover of the city governments in San Francisco and Oakland, with the likes of the Y Combinator CEO Gary Tan backing both projects. Srinivasan has offered lurid fantasies of what tech-controlled San Francisco might look like. In an October 2023 podcast interview, he envisioned a city controlled by tech-aligned Greys, enjoying privileged access to large parts of the city, bribing a Palantir police department, and with blue San Francisco liberals subject to exclusion and hostile propaganda. Sounds exactly like Snow Crash. Devin Burkhart, the executive director of the Institute for Research and Education on Human Rights and longtime observer of far-right organizing in the Mountain West, told The Guardian in an interview that the Wagon Box is significant for being one of the first real-world attempts at constructing a network state hub beyond California. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. All right, let's see here. The Wagon Box reportedly attracted immediate skepticism from residents of the tiny unincorporated story in the months following its establishment. Attenders at 2023 public meeting repeatedly expressed concerns both about the draft Dow documents, vision of capital seed for the Nazian network state, and a place for either gatherings or apocalyptic retreat. McNeil's association with the notorious anti-government activist Ryan Payne. In 2018, Payne was sentenced to federal prison on conspiracy charges after playing the role, according to a federal judge and architect, of the 2016 Malheur National Wildlife Refuge occupation, which he participated alongside the likes of the current fugitive Eamon Bundy. The Mormon Mafia, really? This article, like, I understand it's written by The Guardian and it's heavily guised in progressivism speak, right? Okay. But that's why you gotta read between the lines. All right. That's why you have to read between the lines, because what they're talking about and the people they're talking about is actually very quite interesting. All right. Yeah, they're guising in a lot of progressive written, speak, because The Guardian tends to be more progressive, right? But again, I have issues with all these people too. Not for the same reasons, but I mean, this is pretty, I mean, beside the, obvious slant progressive bias in this article, it's got some good info in it. That's why I'm reading it. Wagabux has hosted a series of events since McNeil's acquisition, many with guests and themes associated with the far right. The 27th April event, Dawn in the West, a futurist Serrata, was subtitled an Uncle Ted Talk, referenced both the TED Talks and a nickname for so-called Unabomber Theodore Kaczynski. Good God. Advertising material highlight themes include the work of Nick Land, who alongside Yarvin is one of the progenitors of the neo-reactionary movement, whose anti-democratic ideas have been cited as inspiration for the Trump administration's gutting of the federal government. Another identified speaker at the event was Jonathan Keeperman. The Guardian identified Keeperman in 2024 as the man behind the Lomez X account and right-wing publisher Passage Press. Keeperman's founded Passage Press is also listed as a participant in Wagon Box's 31 May Roundtable Coalition for Cultural Renewal, CCR. The schedule for a Wagon Box event last August promised a conversation between Keeperman and the journalist James Pogue on the failure of liberalism and globalization. Yeah, and these people are supposed to be our saviors instead of Jesus Christ. It's so silly. Pogue has written extensively. It's literally a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, and solution, and Overton window shifting from progressivism to conservatism. And it's just, it's not even real progressivism or real conservatism. It's just like the outliers of both on the spectrum. It's crazy. See here. Pogue has written extensively about the new right for media outlets, including New York Times and Vanity Fair. In a post at the Wagon Box Substack letter, Pogue and McNeil are pictured together in a photograph purposely taken inside the Passage Press sponsored Coronation Ball in Washington this January, describing the caption as Wagon Box Brothers. Keeperman is one of the overlaps between Wagon Box and a broader far-right milieu. Keeperman, for example, spoke last month at a pro-natalist conference in Austin, Texas, whose speaker roster includes self-described eugenicists and promoters of race science. At the event, in response to a small protest on site, Keeperman took to X, posting, "Natalism is Nazism. Say it loud and say it proud." Balaji Srinivasan spoke at the same conference in 2023. The Natalism Conference founder Kevin Dolan is listed at Texas Company Records as the principal of a natalism.org nonprofit, a newer incorporated Eternal Capital Texas Incorporated and Exit, a men-only organization which he characterized in a Substack letter as a right-wing business network, which is not just about making life in the regime more tolerable, setting ourselves up to succeed as it declines. He founded the organization following Guardian reporting in 2021 that identified him as the man behind the influential Desnet account. X is billed as a participant in the Wagon Box's CCR event, which will include other right-wing publisher, along with Murphy's Other Life and hard right online magazine I am 1776. I'm 1776. God. The Guardian previously reported that I'm 1776, supportive of authoritarian leadership of Vladimir Putin and El Salvador's Nayib Bukele, of course. Enthusiasm for extreme and political figures such as Gabriel D'Annunzio and Kaczynski, and its close links with contemporary hard-right activists like the culture warrior Christopher Rufio. Rufio's not hard right. Council for National Policy member Eric Prince, and would-be warlord Charles Haywood. I'm 1776, literally, I kicked that name. That name. Daniel Miller is a speaker. I mean, it would make CFP Alex Jones so proud. W and in YouTube videos posted on the Wagon Box channel is characterized as a writer in residence. In a January article for I'm 1776. Miller called for Donald Trump to overthrow the government of the UK led by Keir Starmer and liberate the country, saying it was run by a criminal regime dominated by a mafia-like organization and pathological personality. So that would be like what? Like a mafia boss overthrowing another mafia boss? A necessity as clear as the imperative of the Vietnamese to invade Cambodia, remove the genocidal Khmer Rouge from power in 1979. Look, I got issues with Keir Starmer. You can't compare Keir Starmer to the genocidal Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. You just can't do like what? This article, I'm sorry, it's so absurd. Miller did not respond to requests for comment. All right, so that's pretty much the most important stuff. All right, so let's put it here. I was fired yesterday by Richard Grinnell. This is Floyd Brown, founder of the Western Journal. Okay, Floyd Brown's not our guy. Richard Grinnell's definitely not our guy. Okay, I've discussed Richard Grinnell and my issues with him in the Trump administration. But this is still, though Floyd Brown is not our guy. He's good friends with Mike Flynn. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. But he did what was right here. Okay. I was fired yesterday by Richard Grinnell from the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. 1 month ago, I was recruited to join the Kennedy Center as the vice president. My firing came approximately 2 hours after CNN sent an email asking me to comment on my past writings and statements about traditional marriage and homosexual influence in the GOP. Here's my response I sent to CNN. It is an honor to work at the JFK Center for the Performing Arts and with many amazing people who are employed here. Comments rooted in my personal Christian views, which I have made in the past, have no impact upon my work here at the Kennedy Center, nor do they impinge on the interactions with colleagues who do incredible work for the patrons of the center. As a Christian, I'm called to work with others of different beliefs and worldviews. I'm honored to work for President of the Kennedy Center, Ambassador Richard Grinnell, and Chairman of the Kennedy Center, President Donald Trump. I'm united with them in their mission to bring wholesome entertainment showcasing the best performing arts and music to America. Okay, so after all what's happening with him being fired and why he's fired, why would you still say you're honored to work for Richard Grinnell, and why would you still say you're united in his message? We'll get to that in a minute. It was truly not my intention to offend anyone with my comments. I've never intended to attack or demean any person in my statements, and I've always shared the mission of Jesus, striving to love others unconditionally. The amazing beauty of the MAGA movement, if we have people of many different beliefs inside our tent, we're all working together in unity to make America great again. See, that's a problem right there, right? Is MAGA is big tent inclusiveness, okay? Now here, obviously, because of his firing, him standing on biblical values, Floyd wasn't being inclusive, but his tweet here is inclusive. There's a lot of doublespeak in this tweet. CNN also contacted Richard Grinnell, who is a professing Christian and is married to a male spouse. As anyone that has followed my X account knows, I'm a professing Christian. At times outspoken on public policy, having authored 7 books, my latest being Counterpunch and a Likely Alliance of America's Fighting Back for Faith and Freedom. I also frequently speak at churches and Christian conferences. I met Richard Grinnell during my time as a political organizer in Arizona. I asked for explanation for my dismissal, and I asked to speak Richard Grinnell. Both of these requests are being ignored. My explanation is the one given to me at the time of my firing. Floyd, you must recant your belief in traditional marriage and your past statements on the topic, or you will be fired. Needless to say, I refuse to recant. Was shown the door. My beliefs are much more common to biblical Christianity. I agree. I don't know why he's backpedaling up here talking about MAGA movement inclusiveness, and that he's still honored to work for Richard Grinnell, who claims to be a Christian, but was upset at Floyd's belief, biblical belief. If you want to know what I feel about homosexuality, just read Romans 1. But, biblical belief that Richard Grinnell is in sin, being a married, quote-unquote, homosexual male, and that he would not recant, that he believes that it is sinful, and he believes that it is not marriage. So, again, his statement here, I agree with. All this backpedaling and glad handing before this statement, no, this is unnecessary. My only conclusion is Richard Grenell was intimidated by CNN's story, which hasn't aired or published, so he preemptively fired me for my Christian beliefs on marriage. I don't believe that at all. I believe Richard Grenell fired you, Floyd Brown, because he was upset that because, again, Richard Grenell's not a Christian, okay? He's just a MAGA, Zionist to the hilt. He again is going against the Bible as being a homosexual man in sin, and believes that he can be married. And so he's upset that you would not kowtow to him and his false beliefs that he needs to repent of. So, I mean, Floyd Brown, I don't agree with him straddling the line there, that, a lot of glad handing that he did at the beginning of his statement, but him standing on biblical truths and getting fired because of it, that, I agree with. So here, Flynn says, I'm so sorry this happened to my friend Floyd Brown, who was massively experienced and talented, exactly the right person to manage the day-to-day operations of the Kennedy Performing Arts Center. My bottom line is that this is a necessary firing of a man who is simply a passionate Christian, a fierce patriot, and a true friend. I saw him through my own trials of truth of faith, family, and true friendships. In my judgment, there's no leader better suited to oversee the Kennedy Center than Floyd Brown, which is why he's selected in the first place. We cannot let these assaults on good people continue. The tides must start to turn or we'll never recover. America first is more than a battle cry. It requires us to prioritize our American values over those of other nations. Otherwise, we'll become like other empires throughout history. We risk falling into dustbin. Well, Floyd didn't espouse American values per se. He espoused biblical values, Flynn. America's success story will require an unwavering stance in what it means to be an American, redefining exactly what American values. Some values are not up for discussion, not for sale. By congressional decree, we're one nation under God. But what God, Flynn? You're a theosophist. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees freedom of speech and freedom of religion, both required for a free nation. I stand strongly with Floyd Brown, who understands how ridiculous it would be to bow to CNN and their fake news coverage. What about bowing to Richard Grenell, who's an unrepentant homosexual, MAGA, ardent Zionist in the Trump administration? The dude's pro-war, warmonger. There's a lot of problems with Richard Grenell, all right? And the hypocrisy of MAGA, right? Because, you'll have the left saying, well, Trump's clamping down on LGBTQT plus rights. And, he's anti-homosexuality and anti-homosexuals, and he's a homophobe. And all that is simply not true. I've covered extensively on this channel the hypocrisy of Trump and the hypocrisy of Christians that back Trump, because Trump is very much pro-LGBTQT plus. All right? So, I mean, it's so silly. Grok finishes his sentences. Neuralink reads his mind. Yes, really. Bradford Smith lost the ability to move or speak due to Lou Gehrig's disease. Now he's got a Neuralink chip that lets him think his text in existence. Grok steps in to finish his thoughts, like a mind-reading autocorrect. And another AI clones his actual voice, so when he speaks, it sounds like him. He's texting, talking, and channeling Jedi powers all with his mind. So there you go. Mario Nafal, someone who I don't trust at all, obviously. He's a shill for the technocratic state, is saying, that Bradford Smith now literally, through his Neuralink chip, has Grok AI finishing his thoughts and his sentences. So that shows you how far it's progressing. Oh, look. Telegram announces partnership with Musk's XAI. Oh boy, for all those using Telegram out there. AI tools developed by Elon Musk's XAI are going to be incorporated into messaging service in Telegram. Announcing the deal, Telegram boss Pavel Durov said it will see his firm distribute the AI assistant Grok to Telegram's billion-plus users and integrate it into his apps. Mr. Durov said in the arrangement, which is due to last a year, would see his company receive $300 million in cash and equity from XAI, plus 50% of revenue from XAI subscriptions sold via Telegram. So he's getting paid. Durov's getting paid. Together we win, he posted on social media. It follows Meta's incorporating of an AI service to its messaging service WhatsApp, a development that was forced to defend after grumbling from users. I hate so much they're trying to push AI down people's throats in all these apps. I hate it, man. I hate it. analyst Hannah Calhert at Media Research told BBC News the move followed the pattern of social and AI trying to absorb each other. She said it was not, however, necessarily what customers actually want. I don't want it. Users probably still use social platforms to talk to friends, and see their friends' updates, she added. Adding AI into direct messaging inherently supplants that. It reduces trust between users and distracts from the current USP. She's right. I agree with her. I don't want it. I hate it. I hate seeing it. This tie-up brings together two of the most colorful, sometimes controversial figures in tech. Mr. Durad was arrested in France in August 2024 after being accused of failing to properly moderate his apps to reduce criminality. Critics had branded the platform the dark web in your pocket because of what they said would amount of criminal activity being discussed on the platform. However, Mr. Durad has denied failing to cooperate with law enforcement over drug trafficking, child sexual abuse content, and fraud. The platform has also rejected accusations that its moderation policies are not sufficiently robust. Mr. Musk has an incredibly broad range of tech interests, ranging from brain implant startup Neuralink to his rocket manufacturer firm SpaceX. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right. So... here we go. I've talked about this for 5 years. Ever since Operation Tiberius Kirk was implemented in Operation Warp Speed, I have discussed this for 5 years. And you know what? The New York Times didn't care and didn't really report why Palantir was continued to gain strength through the Biden administration. That's all you need to know about the New York Slimes. Was there articles like this? Biden taps Palantir to compile data on Americans because it was happening during the Biden administration. It started during Trump's, but continued during Biden's, and is now finishing during Trump's. But did the New York Slimes, did they cover it in depth? No, they did not. They did not cover it in depth like they're covering it in depth here. We should tell you all you need to know about the New York Slimes, okay? Because we had the completion of the virtual border wall by Anduril Industries and Palmer Luckey under the Biden administration. We had the continuation of the military-industrial complex in Lloyd Austin, who was Secretary of Defense under the Biden administration, continuing drone warfare research and manufacturing by Anduril Industries. Operation Tiberius Kirk continued and modified and became something else, which I'm covering in the stream very soon. Getting people's health data in America during the Biden administration. So, Trump ran the ball down the court, passed to Biden. The Biden administration laid it up, and Trump dunked it in. And the New York Slimes cover it just as much as they're covering it now? No. You want to know why? Because they're controlled. They're Mockingbird media just like Fox News and all the rest of them are. All right? Now, it doesn't mean what's written in here, there isn't some truth, okay? There is. That's why I was reading it to you. I'm just telling you, as someone who's covered this extensively for 5 years. 5 years. Now, all of a sudden, everybody wants to talk about it. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's weary of Trump. All right, let's continue. Trump tasked Palantir to compile data on Americans. Well, Palantir's already got a lot of data on Americans. It's got their health data through Operation Tiberius Kirk. Anybody that got the jab during the pandemic, that the New York Times, New York Slimes was trying to shame everybody to get the jab, so they didn't care when you gave your health data to Palantir, but now they magically care. Imagine how that works. In March, President Trump signed an executive order calling for the federal government to share data across agencies. Discussed that already. Raising questions of whether he might compile a master list for personal information on Americans that would give him untold surveillance power. Mr. Trump has not publicly talked about this effort since, but behind the scenes, officials have been quietly put technological building blocks in place to enable his plan. In particular, they have turned into one company, Palantir, the data analysis and technology firm. Already said this is going to happen. Already said this was happening. And guess what? It's already happening. Trump administration has expanded Palantir's work across the federal government in recent months. The company has received more than $113 million in federal government spending since Mr. Trump took office, according to public records, including additional funds, resisted contracts, as well as new contracts with the Department of Homeland Security and the Pentagon. This not included $795 million contract that the Department of Defense awarded a company last week, which has not been spent. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Biden administration's millions and millions of dollars of contracts given to Palantir and Andrew. We're gonna talk about that too on the New York Times. We're gonna be fair and balanced. No, we're not, because you're a mockingbird rag, just like the rest of them. Representatives of Palantir are also speaking to at least two other agencies: Social Security Administration, Internal Revenue Service. Now, granted, did it increase? Did the Palantir's government contracts and its control of the federal government greatly increase right now under Trump administration, the vast only few months compared to the 4 years of the Biden administration? Yes, it did. It did. But so you got to call it both, okay? And they're not going to do it. Representatives of Palantir are also speaking to at least two other agencies, Social Security Administration and Internal Revenue Service, about buying its technology, according to 6 government officials and Palantir employees who acknowledge the discussions. The push has put a key Palantir product called Foundry into at least 4 federal agencies, including DHS and the Health and Human Services Department. While they're adopting Foundry, which organizes and analyzes data, paves the way for Mr. Trump to urgently merge information for different agencies, the government officials said. Okay, so that happened during the first Trump administration, during Operation Tiberius Kirk, and it continued under Biden, and you weren't calling out when it continued under Biden because you didn't care, did you, the New York Slimes? You progressive. Yeah. Creating detailed portraits of America's based on government data is not just a pipe dream. The Trump administration has already sought access to hundreds of data points on citizens and others through government databases, including their bank account numbers, their amount of the student debt, their medical claims, and disability status. Mr. Trump could potentially use information to advance his political agenda by policing immigrants and punishing critics, Democratic lawyers and critics have said. Privacy advocates, student unions, and labor rights organizations have filed lawsuits to block data access, questioning whether the government should weaponize people's personal information. So let's look up something real quick. Let's see here. Let's see if New York Times, did the New York Times talk about Avril Haines? Let's see here. New York Times, Avril Haines, Palantir. No, it did. Okay, fair. I'll give it fair when fair is due. Someone in the New York Times actually wrote about it. Actually didn't think they would. They're just talking about speaking fees. Janet Yellen, Blinken, and Avril Haines speaking fees. And they tentatively in the article talk about Avril Haines and Palantir, but not much. Okay, so again, even then, yeah, they one sentence. All right. Creating detailed portraits of Americans based on government data is not just a pipe dream. The Trump administration has already sought access to hundreds of data points. Okay, I read that. Palantir's selection as a chief vendor for the project was driven by Elon's Department of Government Efficiency. According to government officials, at least 3 DOGE members formerly worked at Palantir, while 2 others have worked at companies funded by Peter Thiel, an investor and founder of Palantir. Some current and former Palantir employees have been unnerved by the work. The company risks becoming the face of Mr. Trump's political agenda. 4 employees said it could be vulnerable if data on America is breached or hacked. Several tried to distance the company from the efforts, saying decisions about a merged database of personal information rest with Mr. Trump and not the firm. The month 13 former employees signed a letter urging Palantir to stop its endeavors with Mr. Trump. Linda Zie, a Signy, who was a Palantir engineer until last year, said the problem was not with the company's technology, but with how the Trump administration intended to use it. Data that is collected for one reason should not be repurposed for other uses, Ms. Zia said. Combining all that data, even with the noblest of intentions, significantly increases the risk of misuse. Mario Trillo, a lawyer with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a digital rights group, said the government typically collected data for good reasons, such as to accurately levy taxes. But if people can't trust the data they're giving the government will be protected, they will be used for other things than what they gave it for. It will lead to a crisis of trust, he said. Palantir declined to comment on his work with the Trump administration and pointed to his blog, which details how the company handles data. I've read this before. It's a complete bull. Can you guys hear me? Testing. Is the audio better? We are not a data processor. We act as a data processor, not a data controller. Our software services are used in the direction of the organizations that license our product. The organizations define what can and can't be done with their data and control Palantir's accounts in which that analysis is conducted. The White House did not comment on the use of Palantir's technology and referred Mr. Trump's executive order, which said he wanted to eliminate information silos and streamline data collection across all agencies, increase government efficiency, and save hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, I've covered it. I've covered it in depth. So here we have Palmer Luckey with the darling of the right now, Mark Zuckerberg. Now you have to remember, Cambridge Analytica, the CMPs worked with Mark Zuck in 2016. And, at one time, Palmer Luckey worked for Facebook. He was fired, and now, look, they're working back again. Meta fired Palmer Luckey. Now they're teaming up on a defense contract. Meta Platforms had a messy split with its virtual reality chief Palmer Luckey. Now the two have reconnected to build high-tech headsets for the U.S. Army. Luckey's defense firm Anduril Industries and Meta said Thursday they will together build a line of new rugged helmets, glasses, and other wearables that provide a virtual reality or augmented reality experience. A system called Eagle Eye will carry sensors that enhance soldiers' hearing and vision. Detect drones flying miles away or sighting hidden targets, for instance. It will also let soldiers operate and interact with AI-powered weapon systems. Anduril autonomy software and Meta's AI models will underpin the devices. The collaboration brings together a social media giant that's long been the target of Washington scrutiny and a weapons maker that is a rising star inside the Pentagon. The partnership offers another example of Silicon Valley's ideological evolution and big tech's expanding embrace of defensive work. I should look at this as I've succeeded, Luckey said in an interview. I've successfully persuaded not just Meta, but many others that are working with the military is important. Meta in recent months has recruited former Pentagon staff to join its ranks in an effort to navigate the labyrinth of the defense procurement process. In November, it opened up its AI models for military applications, a new business line for a company whose profits have been powered by online advertising. In a statement, Meta Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg said the Eagle Eye technology will help U.S. soldiers protect their interests at home and abroad. Meta and Anduril have jointly bid on an Army contract for VR hardware devices worth up to $100 million. If awarded, it would be Meta's most significant tie-up with the Defense Department. The contract is intended to wear headset prototypes, which are part of a larger $22 billion Army wearables project. It's interesting. RFK Jr. just met with the technocrats for health wearables, right? Let's see if I can find... trying to find it here real quick. I saw it somewhere on X. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Yeah, here we go. This week I met with CEOs and entrepreneurs in the tech space working to transform how we manage health from wearables to real-time apps. Look at all that. Look at all that data. Meeting with all them data wearables. You got wearables in the military or wearables for your health. Okay, there you go. RFK Jr. is definitely a solid. I covered him. All right, so Elon Musk juggled drugs and family drama on the campaign trail. Supposedly, Elon Musk took so much ketamine that it messed with his bladder, okay? And that explains why, if you have Peter Thiel's ketamine clinics, we're talking about VR wearables, right? And good old Rick Goblin, the Doblin, good old Rick Goblin, in MAPS Institute, talking about using ketamine to put soldiers in K-holes to cure their PTSD and put a rifle back in their arms so they can go back out to war, right? And now you have the combination of VR headsets and ketamine K-holes for PTSD treatment, right? All that coming together, right? So we know that Peter Thiel is funding the ketamine clinics across the United States of America and the proliferation of ketamine and its usage, and Musk is using ketamine. So again, like I've played videos of Musk on this channel. Musk's erratic behavior, Musk's garbling during his speech, Musk's pupils being extraordinarily dilated, his spasticity. He's definitely on drugs. Definitely on drugs. So here is Trump giving Elon Musk the key to the White House. They're definitely not done with each other, okay? The reason why Musk had to leave Doge was because of his special government appointment. Time had run out, okay? They're not upsetting each other at all, okay? And so here Trump is giving Musk the key to the White House here. So Musk will still definitely will be working with Trump. And I believe he's the false prophet. So he'll be working with Trump, who I believe to be the Antichrist. But even if they're not, they still will be working together. And then you have, the mysterious L. Donald Trumpo account, which some people have discussed it maybe might be Baron Trump. He writes, Elon the Gray leaves us. Elon the White will come back and turn at the turn of the tide. So we have a Palantir reference. Lord of the Wings reference first, but Palantir reference second, of a combination of Elon and Lord of the Rings, from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, right? Elon the Grey to Elon or White. Mm-hmm. And then I guess in closing, Trump posted this: he's on a message from God, and nothing could stop what is coming. Well, what they call a Nix Wick in the QAnon operation, which means nothing can stop what's coming. That means military tribunals, right? And you have Pepe, of course, being here in the background at Pepe at a bus stop, right? And Trump retruthed this, right? And you have on the mission from God, which is, reminiscent of Blues Brothers, but kind of saying that Trump is on a mission from God to save the world, right? If he's the Antichrist, and he would say he's God, and it is his mission to save you as the savior of humanity. We'll see if it eventually gets that far or not. But this more Q proofs, so much Q proofs. This administration is so disgusting. Still running that operation, and it is a psychological, psychographical, and spiritual operation that's still being ran upon the world. So, all right, everybody, take care. God bless.